I'm Terry's dad. My name is Steve. Terry's my daughter. Donald is my son-in-law. Very good people. This chair I'm sitting in, I built this chair when I was 18 or 19 years old, when we knew that we were expecting Tara. And I built this chair to rock Tara in. This chair doesn't have any screws or anything like that. I drilled it and reamed it and just pressed it all together. You know, it was a few years ago, and it's still holding up, you know, pretty solid. Pretty proud of this chair. It's been through quite a bit. It's been all over the country, a lot of moves, a lot of stories in this chair. Watched all the presidential elections in this chair. Watched the space shuttle take off on this chair. Watched the end of NASA, the beginning of a new NASA come about. Went through several jobs in this chair where the companies closed down, new companies came along. Seemed like the end of the world at the time when they would close down, but something better always came along. I built this chair in the garage that my dad taught me how to use his air conditioning tools. We had gauges, you know. He gave me a set of those gauges that you measure the freon in compressors. You check the low side and the high side and screw them in, and then you sit there and watch it, and then hook the other gauge up to the freon tank if it's low. And so at 18 years old, he taught me pretty much how to work on air conditioners. From the time I was a child, I went everywhere with my father. One of my first memories, I think I was maybe this tall, I don't know, 2 or 3 years old, standing on my dad's knees. And he always had a brand new car. He had this new 53 Chevy, and I was standing on his knees holding the steering wheel up like this, going down an old country gravel road, sliding around the corner. I was scared, and he said, no, son. He said, you're doing good. He taught me how to correct when a car started sliding, and years went on. He helped me build my first quarter midget race car, half midget, USAC midget, got into stock car racing. My dad was a genius. For a man with an 8th grade education, he wound up owning his own business, his air conditioning business. And he raised us later on in a lifestyle that you would not imagine an 8th grade education could get a person to. But he was determined. We lived in a neighborhood with doctors and scientists, and he made sure we all had nice things. 5 kids. He spent every bit of his time, his soul, his self, his money, and put it into us kids. His family meant a lot to him. And I missed him, you know, when he left and when he died. And I still miss him. I think about him every day. I think about all the things that he taught us, you know. And he knew so much mechanically. He was really good with air conditioners. My dad and I built the first house over at 24th Street in Shea in 1972 is when we moved in. Started in 71, moved in 72. He had a unique air conditioning system for its time. It was one of the first ones that, in fact, it was the first one that we had ever seen or heard of. It was a big house, and he put 2 3.5-ton air conditioning units on the roof, one on this end and one on this end. And he taught me how to balance those so that we would have equal air and returns coming through the house. He taught me how to do all the electrical on that house. That house is all built out of 4x4s. You would think 2x4 studs. Every house, every stud in that house is a 4x4 stud. It's built practically hurricane-proof. We built a pool in the backyard, only one of its kind. He taught me how to do the bend the rebar, heat it with a torch, bend it. And then we had to hire somebody to do the gunite work, but we did most of the work on that pool also. My dad taught me a lot. I still love him. He always taught us that if you want anything in this life, you work hard for it. You stand on your own 2 feet. Don't expect anybody to hand you anything. You work for it and it'll come to you. And it was true. I've made a good living at what I've done in my life. I've worked hard with my hands, and my kids can all tell you that. And my dad was real proud of me, you know. I guess the air conditioning business is something that has run in our family since I was a child. I grew up with it. I used to work for I won't mention the name of this factory, but they were one of the first air conditioning businesses in America. They were over at, by the stockyards over at 48th Street in Washington. They had a big factory over there. I worked in there for 6 months until it was in the winter, time for them to have their annual layoff, as they had every winter. I learned a lot in there. I started off at an entry level, and when I left, I was in charge of the department that piped bent all of the tubing and piped it for the compressors and the coils, and put them all together and everything, and then taught all my guys to do that. I was a young man. I was 18 years old. It meant a lot to me back then. As I've grown, I've changed an awful lot, mentally and physically and emotionally. Things that mean the most to me are my family. I've always tried to provide well for my family, make sure they had nice things. That's all I know how to say right now.